Adventures in Paradise Part 1 has one of my all-time Frasier moments in it ever, and I will not reveal what that is just now. This will be spoiler-free for the most part, but I will, in a little bit, of course, share what that moment is. But I think it's probably pretty obvious for anybody who's seen it, but I'll give a spoiler warning in due course. This is the 8th episode of the 2nd season of Frasier. It's directed by the wonderful James Burrows, and the narrative focuses on Frasier starting a romantic relationship with a woman called Madeline Marshall, played by JoBeth Williams. And I have to say, the pairing works really well. And I think they got the casting great. The personality of Madeline Marshall goes really well with Frasier. I loved the scene in the restaurant. I won't say exactly what happens, as I won't spoil things, but that scene gave Frasier a chance to show his professionalism. And we do every now and then get to see Frasier working. We get to see Frasier the psychiatrist. And I love that. I love seeing him do what he's really good at. Because at the end of the day, we usually just see him at KCL, and the advice he is giving is, maybe not the most deep or meaningful advice, but actually every now and then we see him applying theories or working through situations based on his expertise, and this is what we get here. And I really thoroughly enjoyed that side of it. And I will say I feel like the restaurant scene maybe ran a little bit too long. I think they could have shortened that a little bit and given us something else as well. But it's not so much of a big deal, and I don't mind it too much. The fact that this, of course, is a two-parter means that they did need to drag out the narrative a little bit, and I think they generally did a good job with this. Madeline and Frasier decide to go away, and they decide to go to Bora Bora, and I will circle back to that with a spoiler warning in a little bit. So some other bits that I really loved in this, I guess two things. The first is that I just found Roz to be really funny in this episode. I mean, I love Roz. I think Peri Gilpin is amazing. She does a great job with his character. But for some reason, I just found that everything Roz said was funny, it was amusing, it hit the mark perfectly. It really stood out in this episode. I don't know why exactly, because I think Roz is always really funny. I just love her dry sense of humour. But in this one, she stood out particularly well. I also loved David Hyde Pierce's face when Daphne is trying to teach Niles to blow smoke. And in fact, one of my favourite lines in this is when Frasier asks Niles, "What are you doing?" And he says, just very calmly, that he's learning to blow smoke, and I adored it so much, and I really thoroughly enjoyed that part of it. Definitely a very funny episode, really thoroughly enjoyable. And my favorite bit in the whole episode is one of my favorite Frasier moments. I can just see Kelsey Grammer's face when Frasier responds to the situation. Absolutely loved it. So I guess I'll mention what that is with a spoiler warning now. I don't have anything else to say about this episode other than to just sum up and say it's brilliant, it's very funny, and one of my personal favourites. So spoiler from now, I'm going to discuss, of course, what happens at the end of this episode. At the end, Madeline and Frasier are in Bora Bora. It's nice to have a different location, visually engaging, something else to look at. And Madeline is getting undressed. We can see her in the background discarding her clothes as Frasier is in the foreground outside looking off into the distance. And she says his name. He turns around, clearly very excited. And then a heartbeat of a moment later, we hear somebody else saying Frasier, and it cuts, and I said spoilers, of course, it cuts to the wonderful Lilith. I love Lilith. I think Bebe Neuwirth is amazing, and just Frasier's face, I just think it was incredible. His response is just perfect, and I absolutely love it. A thoroughly entertaining episode, one of my favourite Frasier moments ever, always an episode that I will be very, very happy to watch.